It was about a month ago that we spoke to Roger Jardine on the show about his new party and how it was time for change in this country. But it seems now that the time for change starts now. It's not the time for change starts now because they will not be contesting the upcoming 2024 general elections. Just 2 weeks ago, the party had launched its quite detailed election manifesto. The Change Starts Now statement read that recent Constitutional Court ruling and the barriers it imposes on newly established political parties means that Change Starts Now, like several other parties, face a prejudicial logistical timetable to qualify for the ballot. We have therefore taken a decision that while we believe that it is essential to give voters as much encouragement to vote by providing them with a range of options in the interest of increasing the chances of political change, we offer support to political parties who share our values and the aspirations we believe our voters are looking for. Roger Jardine is the leader of Change Starts Now, will not be contesting the 2024 general election. Surely you knew that when you started this political formation, when you're starting to detail your own election contesting timetable, you knew about the logistical requirements that is needed, particularly for new political parties. Roger, why did it catch you by surprise, knowing that you're going to require something like between 10 and 14,000 signatures to nominate you to a national ballot? Roger, good morning.
Good morning. Well, thank you very much, Lester. So we launched Change Starts Now in December. Concurrently, there was a Constitutional Court action brought by independent candidates dealing with these onerous conditions. Ruled in respect of independent candidates, decided that because there was no specific relief sought for new parties, it did not rule on that. There was follow-up action. That ruling only happened late in February, where the Constitutional Court decided that the matter wasn't urgent. Just remember, the Presidency, the Electoral Commission, the Speaker of Parliament, Home Affairs, they all filed notices that they would abide by the court's decision. Our view was that the matter would be heard and that it would be reversed because it's quite preposterous to put such onerous conditions in the line of unrepresented parties. So we weren't entirely caught off guard. We just took a view that the court was likely to make a decision that would relieve new parties of this burden. And that didn't come to pass. And so we had to make a very tough decision, but the right one. I want to be very clear, this is not the Constitutional Court's fault. There was adjudicated elsewhere and brought to the court for a decision, and the court decided it was urgent, and we will abide by that.
What happens now to your logistical operations, which I have seen is quite in-depth and prepared for a 2024 elections? What happens to your elections war chest budget? Do you throw your backing behind another political party to contest the 2024 elections, Roger?
Yeah, so there's no elections war chest. I mean, that's been widely reported on mistakenly. You will have noticed that we've been out and about talking to people across the country. I also want to thank people who have been calling us. A lot of excitement generated by this potential offering at the polls. And what we basically saying to people who like our message and our manifesto, which we basically rooted in social solidarity, we're saying to people, if you like our manifesto, use that to decide who to vote for. But please vote. I mean, change itself is not deferred. Change starts now. Has just found an insurmountable block at this stage in this election cycle. But certainly, we are calling on people to exercise their vote in this upcoming election.
But you're not endorsing any other political formation or independent candidate at this moment?
No, we're not going to do that. But we are endorsing the democratic process. And the number, let me also address one specific issue. There's a lot of commentary about all these parties dividing the opposition and so on. Our parliamentary system precisely allows But if you look, for example, in other countries around the world, you'll find sometimes up to 10 small parties with 1 or 2% in parliament on a proportional representative system. The seismic shift that's coming in our politics, in parliament, where potentially for the first time, you won't have a parliament dominated by a majority that takes instructions from the executive. You'll have a parliament with a lot of voices, represents the people, and it can hold the executive to account. So I don't think people should be necessarily concerned about voting for smaller or newer offerings. I think it's going to be a very important part of rebuilding our democracy.
Roger, according to the IEC's website, there are 1,421 political parties registered at the municipal level in South Africa, 369 political parties on a national level. There was something like 48 parties that contested the 2019 general election. Only 14 parties managed to get into the National Assembly. We'll be talking later on in the show about whether South Africa has too many political formations, too many political parties contesting. And we spoke, and you mentioned earlier, about a division within the opposition in South Africa. But I'd like you to weigh in that. 369 political parties that are eligible currently to contest national elections. And if we were, in your words, to bring about change in South Africa, credible opposition to the ANC on a national level, shouldn't we be concentrating opposition parties into a smaller number instead of the other 368 parties who contest against the ANC on a national level?
No, I think that you can't just arbitrarily impose an extensive limitation on the right to stand for office. So the IEC promulgated the form that parties will need to have filled out to be able to qualify for the election. That's 14,000 national, and then close to 50,000 signatures to contest provincial elections. This debate about having a very deep and wide and diverse grouping of opposition parties, I can understand the concern with it. However, if there are to be any thresholds, they can't be imposed with a very short period of time to fulfill them. And there needs to be a proper discussion on how to go about dealing with so many parties. But again, I want to reiterate, the proportional representative system is predicated on having a plurality in Parliament. And I guess the question is, how does one get to a landing where everyone is comfortable with? But we do not have a first-past-the-post electoral system. There's no such thing as dividing the vote. People get into Parliament and they represent their interest groups and the issues that they feel are dear to them. And I think the aim should be to encourage that as much as possible, rather than to limit that in an arbitrary and unreasonable manner.
Roger, just finally, will you be willing to avail yourself to be nominated to another party's nomination list for a seat in the National Assembly?
So we made this hard but tough decision late last week. We could see where this was heading. We decided that we needed to make this decision. And Change Starts Now is regrouping to see how we advance our manifesto and take this vision for a different national conversation and direction for our country.
Roger Jardine, unfortunately, the line a bit patchy there in the end, but Roger Jardine, leader of Change Starts Now, will not be contesting the 2024 general elections as announced on Friday morning.